Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Melina Surya Kusmawati. Today I'm the first presenter. I'm going to explain about our material. There are language variation. I'm as regional variation. Regional dialects is a variation in speaking a language associated with place, and it is an easy way of observing variety in language. Sociolinguistics are today generally more concerned with social variation in language than with regional variation. However, if we are to gain sound understanding of the various procedures used in studies of social variation, we should look at least briefly at previous work in regional dialectology. Next, traditionally study of dialect. Speakers distance themselves from one another over time and over space, and then dialect become new language. Traditionally, dialect geography, as in the area of the linguistic study, is known, has employed assumption and method drawn from historical linguistics, and many of the results have been used to confirm findings drawn from other historical sources. For example, archaeology finding, population study, writing record. In this view, language differentially a speaker distance themselves from another and over time and space. The change result in creation of a dialect of the language over sufficient time. The resulting dialect become new language as speaker of the resulting variety become unintelligible to one another. For example, Latin become French in France, Spanish in Spain, Italian in Italy, and so on. The next is traditional model of linguistic change. The first is family tree. For example, Latin has branches into French, Spanish, and Italian, and then phonemic split. For example, English v and v are distinctive sound, are now distinctive phonemes, whereas they are phonetic variants or allophones of a single phone or phonemic. English e and e spelling as a beat and beat once designated different pronunciation. And then the comparative method of reconstruction, for example, English nap, German nap, come from the same source. And the last is internal reconstruction, for example, mouse and mist have a different vowel sound. Okay, the last is atlases dialect. Isogloss is a line or maps in what they call dialect atlases. Dialect geographers have traditionally attempted to reproduce their findings on maps in what they call a dialect atlases. They try to show the geographical boundaries of the distribution of a particular linguistic feature by drawing a line on map. Such a line is called isogloss. On one side of the line, people say something one way. For example, pronounce path with the first vowel of father, and one other side they use some other pronunciation. Various types of isogloss are distinguished, and isophones is a feature of pronunciation. Isolex, an item of vocabulary, an isomorph, a feature from word formation, and an isosome, a particular word meaning. The isoglasses show the considerable amount of crisscrossing cause a number of coincide, and coincide called the bundle of isoglasses. A bundle is often said to mark that marks a dialect boundary. Think enough? Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, here I want to explain about the linguistic variable. Linguistic variables are linguistic items whose variation can then be identified. For example, environments such as singing and fishing are pronounced as singing and fishing. The final sound of this word can be called a linguistic variable, which is two variants. They are examples of linguistic variables, and the presentation of this in chance. Then there are other examples of linguistic variables which can be seen from words like fam and far. These words are usually pronounced place. In this case, we have a linguistic variable r with two variables r and the. Then there is other example here involving a word like a bend in vocals. The vowel is sometimes nasalized, and at the same time, the amount of nasalization is very different. Next, linguistics helps study variation by already using a number of linguistic variables. The example has the r variable, other are the h variable is word like example house and hospital. H are the, then t variable, the example bed and better. And then example th is the and dh variable in then and they. The variable th are the. The variable in French in il are the, and consonant variables like the final t and d in words like test and thought. The presence of absent vocalist variable used have included the vowel a in words like pen and man. The vowel o in dog, coat, and coffee. The variable a in bag, the a in bag, bed, and hall, and the variable u in pool. The next.
Okay, my name is Narikmah. Here I would like to explain about linguistic and social variation. Linguistics is the scientific study of language. It involves analysis of language form, language meaning, and language in context, as well as an analysis of the social, cultural, historical, and political factors that influence language. Linguists traditionally analyze human language by observing the relationship between sound and meaning. Meaning can be studied in its directly spoken or written form through the field of semantics, as well as in its indirect forms through the discipline of pragmatics, such as from body language and gestures. For instance, each speech sound particle is called a phoneme. How those phonemes are organized to convey meaning depends on various linguistic patterns and structures that theoretical linguists describe and analyze. Some of these patterns of sound and meaning are found in the study of morphology. It is concerning how words are formulated through morphemes and syntax. It is how phrases and sentences are structured, and then phrenology, the study of sound patterns. The emergence of historical and evolutionary linguistics has also led to a greater focus over studying how language change and grow, particularly over an extended period of time. Sociolinguistics also study how language develops among different communities through dialects and how each language changes, grows, and varies from person to person and group to group. And once a linguistic variable has been identified, the next issue becomes that of collecting data concerning its varieties in such a way that we can draw certain conclusions about the social distribution of these variants. To draw such conclusions, we must be able to relate the variance in some way to quantifiable factors in society, for example, social class membership, gender, age, ethnicity, and so on. People from different places clearly speak differently, but even within the same small community, people might speak differently according to their age, gender, ethnicity, and social or educational background. Okay, the first is social class membership. For example, rich people and poor people. The way they speak are different. For example, the rich people usually speak elegant, and poor people just speak what they want to say. And the next is gender. For example, men speak in a cool way, and women speak in a gentle way. And the next is age. It is for example, young people have to speak formal or respect to the an adult. And the next is ethnicity or ethnic. For example, how the Banjarese and Japanese speak. Of course, it is different, right? The way they speak, the language, the dialect, it is different. Okay. I will give another example. In a job interview, for instance, or when delivering an important presentation to an unfamiliar audience, we usually speak formally. In more relaxed environments, such as when chatting with friends and family, we can speak by using informal way. These tasks are designed to encourage students to explore social variation, capture in sounds according on the site, and to investigate social variation in their own community. Okay, that's my explanation. Thank you.
The next, data collection and analyze. The usual types of data collection tool is a questionnaire designed to obtain illustrate data on the use of the variables being investigated. They are for empathic difference from the result circumstance categories, namely the first, casual situation with subcategories such as speech outside of a firm interview, or conversation with third parties. are not the person conducting the interview. Are responses to common questions. Are remembering. Childhood poetry is the narrative of a story about the feeling of someone in danger. Second, the interview situation. Third, read aloud. For reading aloud word list a word passage as then and later. Thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.